Hello, wonderful universe. It's Jennifer here at Eureka Astrology and Healing, and today we're going to be talking about the Sagittarius full moon. The Sagittarius full moon is going to be on June 14th, 2022, 6:51 a.m. Central Standard Time. So let's get into it a little bit. I've got lots to say about it, and we are coming off the Gemini new moon, and so we'll be talking a little bit about that and the energies that have shifted between there and here. But first, let's talk about the theme. So let's think about Sagittarius, right? The full moon means full illumination to culmination. So with Sagittarius, let's think about what happened back in around December, early December, when we had the Sagittarius new moon. We may have begun to learn something or start something, especially with education or beliefs. Well, this is the culmination of that, a fruition. So if you can remember back, think about that, and this is becoming something that is full. But I like to think of it as a peak of learning. Something that we had started then, or maybe even a little bit before, has grown fully. And so let's look at that, and what you want to do is take the good things that you've learned from it, and as with every full moon, let go of the things that maybe you don't need that you learned, right? Sometimes we learn more than we need, or we learn things that aren't true. And Sagittarius is much better at discerning the truth than Gemini, right? And we'll talk about that as, with the full moon, the sun right now is in Gemini opposing that. So there may be things that you are seeing and getting information in that aren't so true. Just, bits of information, and you're going to have to be like, yeah, I have to let go of the things that aren't true for me and the beliefs that don't work for me, and take what I've learned and move forward. And I like to always refer to the Moon Phase Astrology book with these moons, because I really find that it's accurate, because it really looks at every single moon and its energy, and it has a name. Every moon has a name, and it's the priest moon. The Sagittarius is the priest moon, and so this evokes a lot of feelings of dedication, isolation, faith, right? Having the faith and committing to something. And sometimes you don't know. And what's interesting with Sagittarius is that it does like information. It loves philosophy. It loves to learn. And yet it also loves to do by experience and just getting out there. And we have that tension, yet beautiful energy with this full moon. And so there's really a call to balance our inspiration and our intellect, our experience and our knowledge. To put weight in one or the other could be, it's not going to serve you very well, or me, or anybody else. It's a fine balance, because Sagittarius believes in learning through doing and exploring and experiencing, right? Getting out of the box. This full moon is reminding us how important it is to get outside of what we know and do and shake it loose and let go of all those beliefs we've built up in our box, right? Like, okay, I've stayed in a little space, right? Gemini, locally. But, and you go out and say you travel to another country and you're like, whoa, this is totally different. The values, how, everything operates, even maybe like hours of business operate. Maybe it's more of an nocturnal culture where you have come from more of a day culture where everything's running in the daytime. Just giving you a different perspective and really tapping into that. And, it also reminds us, the priest moon, a dedication to the truth that we have found, right? And we're really being asked to review potentially rigid beliefs we've created, especially in the 6 months, but really it can be for a whole lifetime, right? Or parts of our lifetime. And do we need these, and do we need to let them go? Again, with the full moon, it's asking us to honor and celebrate the fullness, but also, like, it's not an end point, but it's a release point. Like, the cup's full. You can't put anything more in it. And if you want to put something new in it, you got to let go of something. So what are you going to let go of with beliefs, maybe, or maybe even experiences? Maybe there's experiences that you're constantly seeking experiences to do something new and find a new perspective. And you're not really committing, though, to learning that knowledge from each experience. You're just getting addicted to the newness of every experience. And that's not necessarily what this moon's about either, though. It's like, no, learn from it, internalize it. And I think that's the overall theme here is, what beliefs are good for you, what experiences are good for you, and what information is truthful, and what are you dedicating to, and what are you letting go of. Point blank. The next thing I'd like to look at really are energy shifts from the new moon, the Gemini new moon, right? I like to take a look because nothing happens in a vacuum. Like, I'm going to talk about the aspects in a bit, but that's just a snapshot of the day. And it doesn't mean that you may even experience them in that day. It could be days before, weeks ahead, even months, depending on your chart and your life. And so looking to how energies are shifting is very important to understanding the overall weather. And I picked two major things that I thought were really good energy shifts to focus on between the new moon and this full moon. And one was that Mercury goes direct in the time between the moons, and it's finally just back into Gemini at this full moon. And so it has not crossed over the point where it had stationed retrograde. However, like, think about it. So Mercury's intensified. It's really wanting to collect more. It's internalizing. And so it went back into Taurus. And so it started in Gemini. You know, it's thinking about perceiving, communicating, lots of chatter, right? And then it goes into Taurus and slows way down, especially because it's retrograde. It's kind of going internal. And it's like thinking, what are my values? What do I value? What am I worth, right? And, you know, is worth just your gifts? Is worth what you have? What is value? What is worth? And what is your connection to the earth? And what's your connection to comfort, to the physical plane? Not everyone finds it joyous to be in a body, right? They don't find the joy and pleasure. And so this is asking us to review all of that. And then at this point, at the full moon, it's just finally crept back into Gemini, saying like, oh, I reviewed that. You know, I was there, I had to go back because maybe there's information that was missed or experiences that were missed. Now it's moving forward. So from now on, for a little while, it's going to be moving along, and it's going to be asking us, what did I learn back there in Taurus, and how can I use it when I move forward and perceiving and communicating? Maybe you learned a little bit about your value, and now you want to communicate that more with people, or it changes how you verbalize, or how you see other people, other things, other experiences. Maybe what you once thought was a pointless experience, you see the value in it now, like, oh, even though that person's not making money, say in a job or something, you see the value in what they're doing for the community or for their soul or for other spirits and souls. You know, maybe it's something that's, you know, very humanitarian. So it's giving us a new view on value and moving forward with it and how we see it and communicate with it. And then we have Saturn going retrograde. June 4th, Saturn goes retrograde, and Saturn is slow moving, and it's really the later degrees of Aquarius right now. And so Saturn's very at home in Aquarius. It's very committed to the cause. When it goes retrograde again, it heightens the Saturn energy. And so in this case, it also internalizes. And so we might be looking inwards right now, especially where are we responsible to ourselves in our inner world for individuality, geniusness, and, you know, how do you express that? And you may not be expressing it fully right now because Saturn is retrograde and you're going inward with it and really processing it. Maybe you're restructuring, you know, what you do as far as expressing your geniusness, or how you maybe even work with the community and the collective and friendships that help with your goals, right? So maybe you're recessing some of your goals too, and the structure, like, how am I really going to get to where I want to go with my goals? Maybe, you know, as Aquarius is, it's fixed, but it's also an air sign, and it's like, maybe I need to do a more solid foundation, or maybe I was too rigid or fixed in what I thought was going to get me there. And Saturn is also very, you know, a slow and stabilizing sign, but, you know, it's calling us to be, you know, learning from this, and maybe even teach ourselves about how we can restructure that. With that, let's talk about the aspects. And these are just overall energies of the day, like I said, and they may play out that day or prior to or after this full moon. And so I'm going to start with the harmonious aspects, right? And so when we talk about harmonious aspects, remember that they don't just automatically are good, right? Sometimes they're easy. And so just because something's easy doesn't always make it good. It just means the energy is flowing there. And so it's just kind of happening. There's not resistance to the situation. So we have a sextile with, so Mercury, right? It's going direct. It's going to be Mercury in Gemini, sextiling Neptune in Pisces. And then Neptune is going to also be sextiling Pluto. Pluto is going to be trining Mercury. So this is a nice little kind of easy breezy energy. However, we've got, you know, 2 other planets, and one of the planets that I would necessarily say is easy breezy. That's Pluto, right? And so what I saw, I kind of stopped. I said, intuitively, what does this feel like before I go like deep into the meanings of the planets and signs and everything? And it was bringing forth new information, learning new ways to perceive the world, right? That very Gemini thing. And then there's hope in that situation, right? The Neptune. And yet we see the, you know, the past illusions with, you know, Pluto being a Capricorn of maybe the structures that we built and the restrictions that were there. And then like going forward, right? Moving forward, that as Mercury is moving forward in our perceptions. And so my hope is that we have the hope of the future, yet still see the illusion part instead of being, you know, having the illusions, seeing the illusions, because Pluto's going retrograde, going like, let's go in, let's dig deep and find out what's going on there. Then we also have Saturn retrograde in Aquarius trine the Gemini sun. And so that's going to give a boost to this full moon. And it's, you know, I thought, again, like, how can I meditate on this? What can this mean? And what came to me is learning about what makes ourselves unique, right? And a genius. And what we want with our friendships, and who we want as friends, right? This is, I think, a time of potentially, again, we talk about goals and friends that, you know, will help us to get where we're going. Like maybe we haven't surrounded ourselves with the people that help us move forward. Or maybe we're just not surrounding ourselves with people who let us be our unique selves, right? It happens a lot where people kind of hide bits and pieces because they're afraid of being judged or ostracized, and I can completely understand that. But in the end, like, they can call friends that aren't the right friends for you, right? Like, they're not really there in the end, maybe when you need them, because they're like, oh, well, who is this person? You know, or they're not so committed because they enjoy a surface relationship. And that could be very Gemini in that sun, right? So hopefully that Saturn is saying, hey, to the Gemini sun, like, don't just pick up everybody as a friend just because you want to have a bunch of friends. Like, pick them well, pick them wise, and let them like you for you and who you are. Those are the harmonious aspects that I'm going to focus in on here. And then we also have, as they say, tense aspects. And so you have to remember, when there's tense aspects, squares, oppositions, semi-squares, quincunxes, that tension can create something beautiful. And it's asking us to like wake up, right? It's like, hey, this may not fit, but you can make it fit, or maybe you need to let it go, surrender, whatever it is, right? There's many ways to deal with a tense situation, but it's an opportunity for growth where like the trines and things feel good, but you know, why change something that's not broke, right? People just feel good, right? I'm not going to fix that. Why do I need to fix that? This may be something that needs to be witnessed, honored, and like I said, it doesn't have to be fixed. It could be something that can be let go of, right? We don't have to always fix things, but it's creating something that is asking us to open our eyes and see if something new has to be done with the situation. And what we've got here is Neptune is in play with it as well. So we had it in the harmonious aspect. We also have it in the tense aspect. And Neptune in Pisces is squaring the sun and the moon. So the full moon, right? And we talked about the balance between Gemini wanting something new, something more, doesn't necessarily care about the truth. And it's very local and, you know, focused in more in on siblings and the immediate. It doesn't care about the big picture. And then the moon, right, that's the sun, that makes us kind of feel good. We're probably feeling that. We're like, yeah, let's keep going. And the moon's asking us to slow down and feel and be like, hey, no, I want to know the deeper truths. I want to experience the bigger picture. I feel this. And then Neptune comes in and goes, you know, it has the faith and it has the dream, but it also might be clouding both of the sun and the moon, going like, well, what's real and what's true? Are those experiences real or true? Do you really need to go in deep? Do you really need to keep communicating all this? It might be, I don't want to say jamming the communication lines a little bit, but I would say more like diffusing them, just kind of making static. And we're not quite getting the full picture of the full moon because the Neptune is just making it watery. It can also make it a little more emotional, right? With Neptune in Pisces, it's beautiful. It's collective love, but it's also tapped into the collective. And hopefully by then, society has calmed down a little bit, but right now I'm at it's actually the new moon, and globally, especially in America, right now specifically, people are tense, and there's a lot of tension and confusion and a lot of suffering and pain, unfortunately. And my thought is with this full moon, if that energy is still present, it may be clouding the full moon. People are really feeling the collective, and it's not bad because it's going to teach us empathy, right? But we need to remain grounded. And so my remedy for that would be, think about the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, like grounding into your uniqueness, your individuality. Like, what do you want? And then there's also energy in Taurus. Venus is in Taurus, which is very enjoying the finer things, but it's a little different because it's conjunct Uranus. It's just come off of its conjunction with Uranus. And that's different kinds of ways of finding pleasure, right? Where once you may have sat, and wanted to sit in your recliner and have a glass of wine at the end of the night. Now that pleasure may seem it's not so pleasurable anymore. Like, especially with that Saturn and Aquarius, it's like, no, I want to go pick up trash on the highway and help the environment, or one of a million things you could do for the environment, or anything that you value. And it may not seem glamorous, but it's gonna make you still feel good. It's just something that you may not expect. So again, like, find a way to connect to the earth and ground during this time with that air, with the mutable energy. I think it's really important. And I have a little quote from the Moon Phase Astrology book. They have quotes for every one of the moons, and I wanted to pick one to like wrap it up and say, like, what does this energy feel like? And I think this is a good one, and it's: science and technology revolutionize our lives, but memory, tradition, and myth frame our response. And that's Arthur Schuslinger. And to think about that a little bit, right? Like, the science and technology, right? Very Geminian. And then there's tradition and myth, which is a little more Sagittarian, frame our response. So, like, as you can see, there's two things happening there. And that's specifically to Sagittarius, how like it wants to learn and know greater things, but also wants to know deeper truths and have faith. But I feel like the Gemini plays into that too. And it's just like, how do we get through this world? What rules your perception? What rules your beliefs? And take a good look at it and allow new things to come and old things to go, so you can let those new things come in. With that, I'm Jennifer at Eureka Astrology and Healing. If you like what I'm doing, hit like, subscribe. You can check out my website, Eureka Astrology and Healing. I have consultations. I do blogs on medicinal herbs, plant spirit medicine, and I do astrology consultations as well. Ciao for now. May the plants ground you and the stars guide you.